Welcome to Out Motorsports channel for cars as you are. This is a car that's very minimal introduction. This is the 2022 Cadillac CT5-V Blackwing. In my time playing with cars for Out Motorsports and reviewing for you, I've worked with a lot of cool, interesting, fun, and special cars. This CT5-V Blackwing is easily toward the top of the list. So first of all, what is the Cadillac CT5? Cadillac has gone through a whole bunch of naming conventions over the years, and if you remember the Cadillac CTS, which was kind of Cadillac's answer to the BMW 3 Series, the CT5 is the evolution of that vehicle and that size. So technically, this is supposed to compete more or less with the BMW 3 Series for size, both interior and overall length. Cadillac also has the CT4, which used to be called the ATS, which is a little bit smaller than those. So the CT5 is 3 Series-ish, maybe getting into 5 Series-ish sized. And the CT5 is offered in a variety of trim levels, which again, Cadillac has changed what they call them and how they mean different things over the years. But all you have to remember is that the Blackwing is the biggest and baddest version of the CT5. There is a trim level below this called the CT5-V that uses a twin-turbo V6, and that is not the case here. So with that, let's talk about what is under the hood of this Cadillac CT5-V Blackwing, because it is very special. This one does not have that twin-turbo V6. Cadillac has gone full-on deeply silly, as I said earlier, and they have put a 6.2-liter V8 under the hood here, and to it they have added an Eaton supercharger because, of course, whatever power the 6.2 was making is not enough. You had to have more. So the supercharger bolted to this on its own displaces 1.7 liters of air. That is really wild. That is more displacement than the first-year Mazda Miata's engine could put out at 1.6 liters. So all of that put together produces 668 horsepower, 659 pound-feet of torque, and GM has done some other pretty interesting stuff with this 6.2 to make sure it is up for the task of being used and abused. They encourage you to drive this car as hard as you can. They launched this car at Virginia International Raceway, where everyone got to drive it on the racetrack. So they're really doing what they can to make sure this is considered track ready, track capable. You've got titanium valves, which again are lighter and stronger. And then you've got a wet sump oil system. It's not a dry sump setup, but you've got a wet sump system that is apparently designed to withstand track use with an external oil cooler and a drain back system. And so Cadillac has done a lot here to make sure that the 6.2 with the supercharger is capable and can be run for, periods of time without overheating and can handle track use, not just highway type driving, because where's the fun in that? And of course, with this engine, we have to talk about how it sends power to the rear wheels. The CT5 Blackwing is only a rear-wheel drive car. You cannot get all-wheel drive because, again, who needs it? It takes away from the fun. So you have your choice of 2 transmissions here, the first being a 10-speed torque converter automatic. Boring. Yeah, it's fine. It'll be the quickest thing from 0 to 60. It will do 0 to 60 in 3.7 seconds with the 10-speed automatic, but who cares? Let's have some fun. Let's do this the old-school way. Cadillac gives you the choice. It is the standard transmission of having a 3-pedal, 6-speed manual transmission. This car is so equipped, and it is very good. We will talk about it more in just a second. It is a Tremec 6-speed manual transmission, and I am so glad that they offer it here. Now, regardless of which transmission you choose, all that power, like I said, goes only to the rear wheels, and it flows through an electronically controlled limited slip differential. So Cadillac can control the lockup to make sure that power goes to both wheels, or whichever wheel can use it best, not just the one with the least amount of rolling resistance. Helpful on track, helpful on back roads, helpful putting 668 horsepower to the ground through 2 wheels. All of those cases, glad to have it, and of course, nice that they offer it with both transmissions as part of the standard packaging. Engine, transmission, drivetrain, that is all but one system that Cadillac has massaged here and changed to make the CT5 into a CT5 Blackwing. Let's talk about the brakes. So going fast is great, it is very fun. However, of course, the other end of going fast is being able to stop once you get going that quickly. And Cadillac has, of course, thought of that with the brakes on the CT5 Blackwing. The brake calipers are by Brembo. They are 6-piston front calipers, 4-piston calipers on the rear. They've also upsized the rotors, and that is perhaps more important than how many pistons you've got on the caliper, and that is because you want to be able to dissipate the heat. So the bigger the rotor you've got is one way to make sure that you've got good heat dissipation, which again is important if you're on canyon roads, mountain roads, racetrack settings. You want to be able to get rid of that heat quickly so you can do a lot of rapid stops over and over from high speeds to low speeds. So to that end, not only do you have 6-piston calipers up here, you have brake rotors that are 15.7 inches in diameter. As someone who, again, going back to the Miata comparison, the wheels that came on the first Miata were 14 inches in diameter. On the later Miatas, they were 15 inches in diameter. The brake rotors on this car are bigger than several generations of Mazda Miata wheels. Just think about that for a second. 15.7 inches up front, they've upsized the rear to 14.7 inches. So beyond the multi-piston Brembo calipers, you've got those big rotors. Again, really nice and helpful. So glad that they're thinking about all that. Now with that, we should also talk tires. This car came on Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires, and they are relatively gigantic. You have a 275 millimeter wide tire up front here, which is pretty big, all things considered. This is on a 19-inch wheel. But going to the back of the car, you have a 305 millimeter wide tire out back. That is large. And again, you have to put all this power down through 2 wheels, not 4. That is a lot of tire. That is previously reserved for Corvette sort of tire width. And it's on a Cadillac 4-door sedan. So we've talked about the going, we've talked about the stopping. We should talk about the steering and the handling, because that is the final piece of all this that makes the Blackwing the Blackwing. So talking about handling, the Cadillac CT5 Blackwing has GM's latest version of magnetic ride control, or what you may have heard in the past as MagneRide. That is a bunch of magnetically charged fluid that is inside the shock absorbers that can react very quickly based on electronic inputs from, a ride computer, and it can stiffen up the shocks or loosen them very quickly, very rapidly to respond to changing road conditions and whatever drive modes you have chosen inside the car. The CT5 Blackwing has the 4th version of magnetic ride control, or MagneRide. So it is magnetic ride control 4.0, and it responds to all these inputs from all the sensors and computers 4 times faster than the outgoing system did. This is a very long-running system within General Motors and Cadillac. The first iteration of it came on a vehicle I owned many years ago, a 2005 GMC Yukon Denali SUV. It was great then. They have only improved on it since, and of course, in this case, it is not tuned to handle things like an SUV might. It is tuned to handle things like you would expect from a big sports sedan. So not only can it respond to all of these inputs 4 times quicker than Magnetic Ride Control 3.0, it's also set up to respond better between the compression and rebound of the shock absorbers, so it can transition between the two much easier with much more grace and control. It's not to say the old system was bad by any means, but when they improve things, they really were trying to improve all of those transition moments. Again, if you're on back roads, if you're on a racetrack, at an autocross, whatever, they want the car to respond to quick inputs where the suspension is compressing and getting weight off of it back and forth rapidly. So with all that, let's get behind the wheel of the CT5-V Blackwing and see how this thing is to drive, both in a normal sports sedan environment and in a deeply silly environment. All right, so let's talk about driving the CT5-V Blackwing just as a street car, something you would drive to work, drive on the weekends to see your friends, just in a casual, relaxed environment at moderate speeds. So this one, like I said, is the 6-speed manual. The clutch take-up is somewhat heavy, but it's what I would expect for a car like this. It's not like it's too light or, it fits the character of the car. It is heavy, but it's not excessively so, although if you're one of those people that's like, oh, I can never drive stick in traffic because it's so annoying, this is probably a car that you're going to be annoyed with because it feels a little old school in that regard. I love it and I would be okay with it because that's the point of the car. It's not supposed to be, the most easy and accessible thing in the world. Now, I have the exhaust right now in its quietest setting. The whole car is in tour mode. Go ahead and give it a romp. I don't know how much you can tell there, but it cannot put power down in first gear. It is dry right now. It's a little overcast. cannot put it down. It just wants to spin the tires. The traction control cuts in right away. GM has what they call performance traction management on this Cadillac Blackwing, and this is in full-on, you know, comfort tour mode, they call it. And all it does is just shut you down. Now, while I've got this in tour mode, like I said, the suspension is adjustable. It does its own thing. In tour, it is going to be the softest suspension, is going to be the lightest effort steering, and everything is, you know, it's comfy. When you've got imperfect highways or city streets or whatever, the suspension does a really nice job soaking things up. I've got a couple spots where I know they always want to upset the car as you kind of bound over them. This does a really nice job doing the best it can to make them a complete non-event, which is really commendable among vehicles of kind of any price point, because that is a really challenging moment. That's that compression followed by immediate rebound. That's a lot of rebound where the chassis wants to, you know, jump back up. It does a nice job. Obviously, with spots like this where I've got little expansion joints and asphalt patches and things, everything also feels very nice in tour mode. It's soft without being excessively so. And, you know, the torque from the V8, I'm in fourth, I could be in sixth. That's, you know, there's torque wherever you want. Even if I put my foot down in fourth, it just takes off and goes. And even if you know, if you downshift, and it'll do it easier. It's plenty of power and torque, of course. Now, I do not have the automatic rev matching turned on. That is a button right here. You can push it, and the gear number in your cluster turns orange, and that indicates that you've got auto rev matching on. So when you do that, it will rev match for you. I don't love how the rev matching works. I may feel differently in different scenarios, but just driving around, you know, on public streets, I have more fun doing it myself. I would rather do it myself, so I leave it off. I've been enjoying it more with it turned off. As far as everything, as far as drive modes, this car is very configurable. There is a drive mode toggle here, and I have it set up in the My mode to give me the medium effort steering and the maximum engine sound, so the exhaust is as loud as it can go. And if I downshift, it is much louder. It sounds so good. You will want to be driving like a complete child everywhere you go, especially if you get to a tunnel, an underpass, anything where the sound will reflect off of something. And it's just so good. It's such a good sound. The car has a bunch of different traction control modes, no matter what drive mode you're in. Cadillac calls it performance traction management, and you can have it completely inactive where the traction control is totally on, or you can click it up to wet, dry, sport, whatever the case may be, and it will let you have a little bit more fun before it intervenes and shuts things down. All of this to say, this is all fine on the street. This is a very good street car. It's easy to have a little fun here and there. But I figured if I was gonna have a CT5 Blackwing for the week, I couldn't just drive it on the street.
So I rented all of Summit Point, and here we are. So let's talk about this CT5 Blackwing on the track. Obviously, it's very impressive on the street, but this is, you know, a somewhat large sedan. It makes a ton of power through just two wheels. And what GM has done here, what Cadillac has done here, is really impressive. We are on the Jefferson circuit at Summit Point Raceway in West Virginia, and this is just it's a good test to show off this car. It's a lot of quick transitions. There's room for some speed, and I've got the car. It's got your performance drive mode settings on the steering wheel. Those are right here. And I've got this in either sport or one of the race modes. Either way, it dials everything up a little bit. It gets the magnetic ride control all ready for you, so it kind of knows what's coming. And then perhaps the best part is the traction control. We were driving in the wet yesterday, and I took this out for a couple careful laps in the rain, and this has a wet mode, and in the wet mode, it did really, really well as far as dialing everything back, keeping it comfortable, but still giving you some leeway to have some fun. And the traction control is really, really dialed in here. So depending on how much fun you want to have, it'll let you slide it around a little and just go. You can feel it pull timing. You can feel it, you know, do its thing. And It's just easy for how big this is and for how much power it makes. This is a fairly tight circuit here, and you can hear it kind of pulling timing there. And this is just so good. It is easy to drive quickly. The nice thing about the longer wheelbase, it makes it fairly predictable. And if things start to go a little sideways on you, you've got both the traction control and just the fact that it has a long wheelbase to help you out. So that is really, really nice. Obviously, you've got gigantic brakes. Those will haul you down in a hurry, even when they're cold. When they're hot, so much the better. And once you get these tires warmed up, these are the Michelin Pilot Sport 4S. They do a really nice job as well. You got a lot of tire there, a staggered setup, so that kind of promotes a little understeer. But either way, they do a great job of keeping you moving. It is a lot of power to put down through one wheel or two wheels based on what the differential's doing. And it does a very nice job of it. You do have to be careful, especially in the wet. This is a lot of power for these tires, and only being two-wheel drive, not all-wheel drive. I like that it's two-wheel drive because it has a lot of character, but you have to really be mindful of it, because when the supercharger comes online a little bit more and builds a little bit of boost, you really have to be ready for it, or it will step out the rear in a hurry. But overall, very impressed with this Cadillac. You know, Cadillac has been doing a lot with performance cars off and on for the last handful of years, and this feels to me like the ultimate iteration of what they know they can do with a gasoline powertrain. So really, really enjoyable. And you know, if you ever find yourself with one of these and you want to take it on track, it is very capable as it is stock with nothing done to it at all. So very nice effort overall by Cadillac. I have been having so much fun getting to play with this a little bit more in its element versus just on the street. This is really where you can enjoy a car like this the most.
All right, and that is it for this review of the 2022 Cadillac CT5-V Blackwing with 6-speed manual. Thank you so much for coming along. As always, we so appreciate your support. Please be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe right here on YouTube. You can give us a follow on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter at Out Motorsports. And if you'd like to connect with another group of LGBT automotive enthusiasts and motorsports competitors, head over to outmotorsports.com. We have a whole community over there, and we would love to get to know you. Till next time, please stay safe, be well. See you for the next one.